before the question coming up, I just make a quick announcement. There's a few patients approach me, want to ask how to contact me if they want to talk to me. So I don't have my business card yet, so I'm going to tell you my office address and a number so you can write it down. It's 9223 University Boulevard, Suite 102, North Charleston, South Carolina. Zip code is 29406. My office number is 843-576-0070, and my business manager is Wanda.
Did y'all get that? No. All right, I'm gonna read it to you one more time. I'm gonna read it for you. All right, the address is 9223 University Boulevard, Suite 102, North Charleston, South Carolina, 29406. Telephone numbers are 843-576-0070. Second number is 843-576-0071, and business manager is Wanda. Not that my accent's worse, not any better than his, but I'm used to working with him. All right.
So yeah, anyone has a question, want to give me a call?
There's one. The question is, this one's for me. Okay. How long do you cook vegetables before all the nutrition is cooked out? So very rarely are all the nutrients, depends on whether it's a water-soluble, first of all, water-soluble vitamin or a fat-soluble vitamin. That's the first thing. Usually don't wash out all the nutrients. I mean, you may lose some nutrients, but usually they're going to hold, and actually fat-soluble vitamins that contain some fat, actually that you absorb it better once it's cooked than you would in a raw form, okay? So it gets a really bad rap, but there are some real benefits to cooking. One of them is the bacterial killing effect. You know, we worry about that in oncology, so cooked is okay. Most things can be just cooked to tender. They don't have to be cooked to death, but you know, to tender is usually the best way to do it. Most vegetables can cook in usually 15 minutes or so. Some of the things that we lose in cooking and over time is like potassium and some of those things too. So just be aware that you might lose some, but you don't lose. I mean, that's kind of a fallacy that you lose all your nutrition in cooking. That's really not true. Okay. You got one?
Did this pile, was this from the afternoon or from the morning?
I don't know. I didn't touch it. It must be. Let me look.
This was there, right? When we come
Yeah. Yeah. I think these were there.
Okay. One second. I just wanted to let you know Jasmine is still here. If you have any questions about the tumor bank or whatever, we'll definitely answer those as well.
All right, I'm going to go through a few more of these little questions that are asked. What are my thoughts on sodas and soft drinks? If they're sugary and you're having diarrhea, then they can make your diarrhea worse. If they're caffeinated and you are responding to catecholamines, then they can make the flushing worse. They're gassy, you know, so with those things, diet drinks, many oncologists are very adamant against artificial sweeteners. The one that we tend to use pretty successfully that's natural is stevia, and I think everybody's pretty comfortable with that. Small amounts of sugar are not gonna, you know, it's not usually the problem unless I'm having trouble with a real severe diabetic or something. Usually most patients can tolerate a teaspoon, 5 grams, you know, that's not an issue. That's enough to make something sweet. But, so we worry about that. And then artificial colors, I'm not crazy about red just because I worked in areas for a long time where red drinks, red dyes tend to make people more hyperactive, and there's some literature in that in children. But, you know, I think that we'll never make our food system clean. I just don't think that's going to occur in this country, and it's not in any country. But the more you use fresh, I think the problems that I see are mostly in fast foods and in things that are more prepared already. If you're doing scratch cooking and cooking old fashioned, I think the foods that we have available are fine. All right, let's see. That's the next question. Okay, well then this may be a date. What can you tell them about multivisceral transplant?
The multi-organ transplant is sometimes we use it.
The question is, what can you tell us about multivisceral transplant?
The multi-organ transplant is almost a last resort. Sometimes we use it. I have referred out 8 patients in the last 12 years. The indication is someone with a dominant liver disease with another organ involvement, and or the vessel around the liver and from the tumor is forbidding me trying to do the surgery. I don't know, maybe I did not explain very well this morning. When I show you all this tumor wrapping around the vessel, those are the most important vessels go to the liver and or go to intestine. So you guys, several patients approach me, say, my surgeon told me the tumor is too close to the vessel, too dangerous. None of the case I show you was safe to do in most of the surgeons' mind. Every case I show you, I've been turned down at least by 3 different surgeons, a big name surgeon, big time, places Hopkins, and MD Anderson, Duke University, Vanderbilt turned down, and then they find me on internet. I did it. So none of the case is walking the park. But I'm not telling everyone to go for that route, because the surgery sometimes can go wrong, and it's just like anything else. So a lot of patients here know me. When you come to me, you always say, thank you, Dr. Wang, thank you so much, say, saving my husband's life, saving my wife's life, or saving whoever's life. And I always tell them, say, don't thank me, thank God, because God allows things to happen, and that thing didn't go wrong that day. Granted, I think I'm a very semi-decent surgeon or whatever, but it's all in God's hand. I only do the best I can. So, every case come to me, the first thing I will tell you, say, I don't promise anything, I only promise one thing. I will do my best. That's all I promise. Everything else in God's hand. So giving all the consideration, so several patients ask me, say, what stage do you recommend surgery? When you go for surgery? I said, this is a very big decision. When I talk to the patient, I tell you pros and cons. What a good thing could be the surgery. What could the wrong thing can go wrong. And I compare with all the medical therapy, the PRRT, all the different medicine people recommend. And I tell you what the side effect is, how many percent will be successful. If you look at a PRRT, complete response rate is 17%. Dr. Strasberg, or the trial, some of the drug response 10%, 15%. Surgery is 100% if you can take tumor out, right? You put it in a bucket, and I was joking with my student resident, when you put a tumor in the bucket, the tumor never grow again, period, right? But on the other hand, is a price big to pay if things don't go well. So I never recommend surgery lightly, okay? But also, I have to tell you, the literature is very clear. If you're a young, healthy person, and you have a surgeon dedicated enough and with enough experience, surgery may be the best thing to do. And the other thing you think about, if you go into the big surgery at the age of 50 versus you do the big surgery at the age of 75 are different. It's much easier to go over 50 and 70. And I told my student and resident too, sometimes with the age, you cannot take a joke. That means if you're a surgery complication, this complication may get you. But if you are 25, 35, 45, a little bit complication, you may still cruising through. So you have to take everything into account. 12, 15 years ago, we really don't have much good choice other than the Sandostatin. So almost every patient come to me, I say, yeah, you do surgery. But now with all the different medicine now, and also you can stack in the medicine. No one tell you can only use one medicine. No one tell you only can use a PRRT. You can use a PRRT followed by medicine, medicine followed by PRRT, and then put a surgery as a backup, or you can get a surgery up front. Of course, ideally, if anyone is very lucky to pick up a very early tumor, have no metastasis yet, you are healthy now, go for surgery first. when you're still young, get the tumor out. Remember the nitrates coming out. All the thing I always joke like this, say, when you're dealing with this disease, almost dealing with terrorist organization. Is a Bin Laden hiding somewhere in the cave and no one can find it? And he sent out all the lymph nodes, those cells, and go to abroad, blow up bridge, fly airplane into the buildings, and you can never find the head. But if you can chop the head off, and all of a sudden the activity died down. So giving all those, when you are in the early stage, you can get the primary, and you're a good surgeon, by all means do it. If you already had a surgery, disease now bothering you, under control, maybe wait a little bit while, it's okay. On the other hand, if you already get to you have lung disease, you smoke all your life, you have very bad diabetes out of control, hey, the surgery may be successful, but the complication may get you. So you have to take everything into account.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. I'm going to take one of my other questions. What's your perspective on nitrates in meats, deli meats, and hot dogs? And this is an issue, with the exception of the cold cuts you had for lunch today, we do have enough research that says that this is really a colon cancer issue, and there is a link that's been identified between nitrates and colon cancer. And so that's where, I don't think it's really great for any areas, but in colon cancer is one of our big risks there. Everything in moderation, is how I feel about it. Everything in moderation. You're going to be in positions where you're going to take your best options, and that's how we do things. So just remember, in moderation. If that's the only option you have, if you eat a hot dog at the baseball game and you only go, twice a year, everything's, just small amounts of anything probably won't hurt you. If you're eating cold cuts every day, then I would cut it back. If this is something that's a big part of your life, and the fat issue alone would probably get you, to be honest with you. But that's how I feel about it. Everything in moderation. There's not one food that's going to cause unless you're doing it, really on a weekly basis, and those things is where you get in trouble. So, let's see what you got.
This question: the tumor was involved in mesentery causing fibrosis. Now the tumor moved into liver. Was the liver causing fibrosis, and what should we do for the liver? The liver metastases usually don't cause much fibrosis. If fibrosis within the tumor itself, as a matter of fact, make the liver surgery much safer than most of the other surgery. I show you all this big tumor I take out this morning. None of the patients I transfuse them at all. And a lot of people say, how can you do that? It's because the tenacity of the tumor become different. Within the fibrosis of the tumor in the liver, within the liver, becomes so firm, so hard. So it's almost, I put my finger in there, I can tell where is the normal liver start, where is the normal liver end, because the softness go away. And all of a sudden I feel like I'm feeling something very smooth, like sponge, and all of a sudden I hit a rock. So I can find the interface between the rock and the sponge. You follow what I'm saying? So I can direct peel off. So people say, wow, magically, how can you do that without getting into trouble? Because the tumor biology helped me. So the fibrosis in the mesentery causes bowel shortening, causing kinking, causing obstruction, hurting the patient. But the tumor fibrosis in the liver is helping you guys when I do surgery. Because make my surgery much safer and easier. I know where the tumor ends, where the tumor starts. You follow what I'm saying? And again, what the good timing to address a liver met, again, every patient are different. If you're young, healthy, your symptom is controlled, and you have a whole bunch, 500 of BB in the liver, maybe continue medical therapy or talk to radiology, get embolization, blind, or chemo. That's maybe one way to do it. Dr. Anthony used a lot of afinitor first, 2 to 3 months, then followed with chemo embolization. That works very well. On the other hand, you are a very young, healthy person. You only have a 2 big tumor, 5 centimeter on the CT scan. People can see the tumor from 5 miles away on the CT scanner. Those patients, maybe you find a surgeon like me take it out and put it behind you and they get symptom control all at the same time. Maybe it's worthwhile. So it's very hard to say. And if by chance you have the tumor pattern is a few big guns with a whole bunch of babies, and maybe you can try to have someone remove the big ones and then have radiology do the small babies. Or you can have radiology try to chemoembolization, blunt embolization or PRT, and if the big hunk don't go away, you can always find a surgeon to finish up the job. So you can do a staging, stacking. So the one thing I told patients, say, when you have this problem, it's not a one-way-fits-all or only one treatment available. You have all kind of chip you can play. You just don't know how to play it, which chip you should put on the table first. So that's why it's important to talk to someone who's experienced with a good, understanding of the whole process. And again, young, healthy patient, disease never been touched yet, put surgery up front may be a good idea when you're still young and healthy, disease still haven't metastasized yet, or metastasized to the out of control yet. If you already had a surgery, then the whole game becomes different. You really know how this first surgery was done, what you have been experienced now, what kind of problem you have, and what kind of treatment you already had, and what's the response you had to the treatment. So it becomes very complicated. And I schedule my patient again will tell you, they come to see me, usually appointment is 1 hour, because I just cannot give you an answer with 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I just can't, because so many things to talk about. My first appointment is 90 minutes, and I usually schedule for 2 hours. I tell my nurse, don't ever, because sometimes the patient talk to me, then the family, brother have a question, then grandmom has a question, so I always say, let's have it 2 hours come, block, so we can have all the question answered, and we go through the whole 9 yards. And I usually tell the patient, if you go home to think about it, talk to someone I already operate on, talk to your family, talk to your priest, and go to church and pray to God and think through it. I never tell people, say, just, don't worry, I sign your name, I take care of you. I don't ever do that.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. Let's see if there's any other ones. There's one more question, and this is pretty common, so I will take this one, do this one. What's your perspective on organic and non-GMO versus traditional foods and GMO foods? And this is a question I think as dietitians we get quite often. I think, go back to what, GMOs are relative to where you are. And GMOs were put out, there's some benefits to them in third world countries where we had fat, just couldn't grow anything, nothing could thrive. When they came out with GMOs, and they could now have food sources that they would never have had before. So there's some benefit to a GMO, that's what they were doing. They added the fertilizer and it gave them a way to produce fields and produce produce in areas where they never had it. This was a real benefit to a third world country. So it wasn't brought out maliciously to do something. There really was a reason, and there was a good reason for it. It is a fertilizer. I mean, I think from practice, anecdotally, I have patients that are sensitive to it, and we're real careful about it. If it's a cost factor, I mean, I don't tell people they have to have organic versus, and have everything. It's too expensive. I'm not paying for an $8 chicken. But now, I mean, but there are people, but if you feel this way, and you feel that if you don't do it and you can afford it, I think it's fine. You're never going to be hurt by using organic and non-GMO. I think a lot of our food system is not the greatest, but more is the processed foods. Now, I think that some products have really changed, like wheat. So we have talked a lot about gluten, and I'm not too sure it's the gluten many times. Many times it's just the wheat. It has changed over time. The wheat that your grandparents had was not the wheat we have today. We know we've changed the nature of that. So I think there's more people that have wheat sensitivities than we used to. Not take the gluten out of it. I mean, there's things that have wheat sensitivities, and that may very well be due to the GMO. Okay, so I think that you just got to, again, go back to, how much ever you're doing, what you're comfortable with. I mean, if you feel like if you're eating this, you feel like you're eating poison, then don't do it. I mean, it's too hard on your psyche. But if you think that, but I don't think that everybody has to have, everything that way. I think everything should be washed clean at home. Just wash your fruits and vegetables. I'm usually peeling most of my patients with diarrhea, or peeling them anyway, so we're taking a lot of the outside part of it anyway. I don't want to. I would never tell anybody that you have to have organic or there's going to be a problem. I'm just not. I don't think I'm comfortable with giving somebody that information. I think a good mixture of things is good. But, and I have a lot of allergies myself. I have a lot of food sensitivities. And so there's some things that I just really can't, I'll go to a GMO or something because I do have a little bit of the fertilizer, probably some sensitivities there in some of those foods. But probably preservatives and things like that play a part in it as well. And I don't have, Cynthia may have walked out. I was going to make her spit some information back at me. Cynthia, that's at the booth out there, is also a registered dietitian and an oncology registered dietitian, and she's very capable of pretty much a lot of questions. If you're out there, be able to pinpoint her. She doesn't take credit for what she has in that field. But I think that does that answer it well enough? Y'all good with that? I mean, I've worked in underserved populations for 25 years. I would not tell my patients that I knew. I mean, they never had access to that. Do I think the ones of my patients that had access have done better through the years? No. I don't think that they're. I don't see a difference between, and I'm in New Orleans, and we have fatty foods and a lot of really great foods. They're not necessarily the healthiest foods, but I still can't pick out the people that were, eating strictly really, really healthy foods from the ones that weren't. There's just not that much showing up yet. Food sensitivity, that's a different thing, and we take that with everybody's individual in that as well.
Yeah, one other question a few patients come to me to ask about is how you follow the patient and what is the disease progression. And be very, very careful. That's why you need to have a consistent doctor so you know what they're talking about. Because everyone uses a different definition of disease progression. From general speaking, from imaging-wise, you can look at several ways you can define disease progression. Number one is disease number increase. Like first time you see 5 lesions in the liver, the next time you see 8, the next time you see 12, that's disease progression. Sometimes it is the same number, 5 liver tumor, but it's getting bigger. But that's become a very, very important question is when are the radiologists look at the same slide and look at the same cut. If you, CT scan, remember, CT scan, if you are cutting a loaf of bread, so almost every cut the same size. But if you try to go cut through the oranges, if you cut the tip of the orange, the oranges is big. If you cut the center of the oranges is big. So the same tumor, because the CT scan slides through the different areas, size may look different. So if the radiologist, one of the radiologists looked at the just center cut of the orange, he tells you your tumor is 5 centimeters. The second cut, the next study follow-up, they cut through the tip of the orange become 2 centimeters. You follow what I'm saying? So that's another thing. The other way we define it is gallium-68 or any other nuclear imaging scanning. The intensity of the light, so the light bulb comes from 5 watts to 100 watts, that may be disease progression. Even the light bulb is still the same size. The light bulb intensity come up, that's also maybe another indication. But another study show every batch of the nuclear scan come up with a different lab, different material. So you have to take about 25% up and down. So it's a very complicated issue. So don't just get panicking when someone tells you, say, oh, this is a disease progression. Find someone know what they're talking about. It's very important. And the other thing to me is a tumor marker is one of the things a little bit more reliable. Because if you grow a pony, it's a pony getting bigger, the pony poop is getting bigger too. So you rarely have the tumor, say the tumor keep growing and the poop stay the same. So if the number, your tumor marker still stay the same, chances are the pony is not growing. You follow what I'm saying? So that's one thing. The other thing is, a lot of people don't understand, a good quality CT scan is sometimes the equivalent of 500 chest x-ray. So when a young patient, how many CT scans you want to get, as some people scan people every 3 months, I said, that's crazy. because you're radiating people. In this country, this year alone, 47,000 patients going to develop cancer from the radiation. So people don't talk about it. So a lot of times, young people, I say, I follow your marker is fine, chances are you're okay. If any doubt at all, we get a scan. But the young people are alternating between CT and MRI. And every year, so now you only get CT scan every other year instead of every 6 months to prevent radiation. So that's why I say, do yourself a favor, at least get one nest specialist to involve in your case first, especially the get-go. Come up with a good plan, and you can have a local oncologist to work with you. But your nest specialist can always do a surrogate, do a remote control to help you guide your local oncologist to do the right thing. So you don't end up wasting a whole bunch of money, do all kind of tests, and then got misinterpretations of disease progression when the reality is not progressed at all. And you lose your hair, lose your sleep, and you say, oh, I'm in trouble because my disease is getting worse. So do yourself a favor, hook up with someone, and if you financially too much trouble to calling to see someone every 3 months, at least visit a specialist you can connect with once a year. And then the rest of the time see your local doctor and connect that way.
I want to thank you. I think we're going to shut this down.
We'll just stay.
Do you have any?
We'll field questions.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah, if you got a question, raise your hand. We got somebody with a microphone. Oh, this is it's a sidebar. Anybody else with a question?
I have one right here.
Okay.
Should I just talk? Can you hear
Okay,
me?
we got a question over.
This is for Leanne.
Dr. Wang?
That's okay.
Yeah, we have somebody from
This is for Leanne. If you are to avoid certain foods before the 5-HIAA test, why wouldn't you want to avoid those foods always? Because aren't they increasing 5-HIAA, and isn't that a bad thing for syndrome or symptoms?
Not necessarily, no. We don't hold them except for around tests. Now, there's some patients that do have some real high numbers. That what we're trying to do is get a baseline with a serotonin test, so we don't want any effect from foods. There are patients I have patients that have very high serotonins and they're having it, and I don't want to push them any higher, and yes, we'll take them off of some of those. But standardly, we don't. There's no need to. And that's pretty well, it's not going to push the tryptophan so much. Okay. Foods usually, you'd have to eat a lot of foods to do that, but I do have some. We have to do it. But I would not tell a population of, and in general, we have to do that. No. But we need to get a good baseline. So we have to take the food percentage out. And it's usually, like I said, it's usually not as much, but it's real important that we know exactly what the tumor's doing and not be affected by something you've consumed. So that's the important thing.
Another thing I forgot to mention, when you follow the tumor marker, you also need to make sure your tumor marker is sent to the same lab, because every different lab uses a different scale to measure it and can be confusing like hell. So my patient, I only allow them to go to one place, so I don't get confused, because if you compare dollar, yen, and mark, I don't know how to convert. So I'm just stay to one currency. I go to the same lab. So, for the next 15 years, I look at that report. I know exactly what that means. It's going up or going down. Because if you this time, the first report used market, the second report used dollars, the second report was the Chinese yuan, I'm completely confused. I don't know what is what. So you go to the same lab. And also, to me, I'm maybe one of the minority. I use 5 different tumor markers in just one. Because I think all the tumors are different. Every tumor producing a different growth hormone. So I use 5-HIF-A, serotonin, I use chromogranin A, pancreastatin, and neurokinin A. I use all 5. Because some tumors only producing neurokinin A, they don't produce anything else, and I will pick up if something is changing. Some tumors only producing, serotonin. Some people only producing, pancreastatin. So I can pick up for 5 different markers. And someone criticized me overkill. I'm stubborn. I still use the same. If you come to me, I will order such 5 tests. And that's my practice.
And if you're doing the plasma and not doing the urine, you don't have to avoid the foods. That's the other thing to know.
Any other questions? Anybody got anything?